Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to be ranking most of the blushes I've tried, and I also filmed a bunch of cheek swatches of every single formula I have so you can see how it performs on my cheeks. And yes, my cheeks are okay. I don't know how, but they're fine. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, let me know what category you would like to see next. And I believe I can link this exact template I made for today's video in the description. So if you want to play along or if you want to play afterwards, you can totally do so. And if you do, I would love to see your results. It'd be cool to see how our tastes differentiate. But I think that's all I want to say. Before we get into it, I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get started. So before we get to placing all of these blushes, let's quickly go through the categories. So up top here are my most loved, and I do not want to live without. Dramatic, but it's true. We all know how I feel about blush. Beneath that, we have the I Like It, and it's in the rotation section. So these might be newer or crawling up to my most loved section. Then we have the It's a Good Formula, but they're not a favorite. So these ones, obviously they have a good formula, but they're missing a little magic for me. Below that one, we have It's Fine, but there are better out there. So if you want a blush recommendation from me, definitely look upward here in these three sections here. And then we have the Save Your Money section and steer clear of these blush formulas. And then I added this last section last second because there are a few blushes here that I feel like would suit my preferences today, but they may not have in previous years. So I thought it was important to include those. It's time. Let's start placing these blushes. So up first, we have the Kaleidos Mono Blushes. I recently tried out this formula. It's been out for a while, but they came out with a few shades in their most recent collection. So these are the only shades I have experience with. And you can see that they're not very vibrant. These shades do give a very subtle effect. I have the shades Pale Rose and Pearl Bliss. So these aren't that impactful. But besides that, they actually do carry quite a few shades, and there are some that look and seem more vibrant. So I don't know how those ones are on the cheek. But speaking about this one's formula, it's one of the most silky smooth powder blushes I've ever tried. So I really, really love its formula. It feels really nice. They blend out beautifully and they never add way too much. But I have an inclination that's because they're not very vibrant in tone. But I don't really reach for these by themselves. I kind of layer these on top of other cream blushes or other powder blushes to make them either bronzier or more pink. I'll reach for them if I just want like the most subtle kiss of color on my cheeks, but even then I feel like it's a little too transparent for my personal blush tastes. So for me, I would place this blush in between I Like It and It's in the Rotation, or Good but it's not a favorite. I Like It and It's in the Rotation because I do reach for them quite often to use as blush toppers. And I honestly would be open to trying their other more punchy colors. So now let's talk about these e.l.f. blushes here. There's the e.l.f. Luminous Putty Blush and just the putty blushes. I'm not a huge fan of these. I do prefer the luminous version. The ones that have a little bit of a pearl tend to apply better on the cheeks. I don't know what it is, but the original putty blushes apply so weird to me and they age weird in my collection as well. I find that when you're applying them, they can almost like dry halfway almost, and then they kind of like gather up and appear patchy on my cheeks. And the formula is just all in all not my super favorite. So I think I would say that the normal putty blush, I would say it's fine. Like, it's not the worst ever. I don't think I would go so dramatic to say steer clear of it, but for sure it's fine and there are better out there. I may not be a fan of the putty blushes, but they do offer some other formulas. This is their newest one. It's the e.l.f. Camo Liquid Blushes, and I have so far been a big fan. They're very new to me still, but I'm impressed. I think they did take a lot of inspiration from the Rare Beauty liquid blushes, but they kind of stand on their own for me. They included this really pretty fine pearlescence that makes them look more dewy on the cheeks than they actually are and feel, which is awesome, especially if you have more of a oily complexion or an oily T-zone, but you still love the dewy look. These will probably work for you. The shades are stunning. The texture is really nice. It has like a really pretty gel-like texture that's easy to blend out, but like the Rare Beauty liquid blushes, these have crazy pigmentation, so you want to be careful with that. I've so far been very impressed and I like them. So this one's going to go into I Like It and It's in the Rotation. Now let's talk about the Halo Glow Beauty Light ones. So I've only recently got my hands on these. I like the bronzer and contour versions, but not so much the highlighter or the blush. And the reason why is because the pearl that they included in these is really big. So I feel like it enhances all of my texture, especially like in the center of my face here. And it looks far too metallic for my personal taste. So I would say that these ones belong in this category. It's a good formula for sure, but it's not a favorite. I mean, I still reach for them time to time, but it does not come close to the love I have for the Charlotte Tilbury Pinkgasm. Not a dupe for me. Following up, we have the Haus Labs powder blushes. So I had a huge phase with these. I loved them. I could not stop recommending them, but they kind of lost its sparkle to me. I don't know if there's other blush formulas that came after this one that I just preferred more, but all that to say, like, this is still a really, really good blush. It has good pigmentation. It has kind of like a really nice moisturized texture. So it has good grip on your skin. It's not going to fade at all throughout the day. It's there to stay. And they have some really fun shades. Like the one I swatched in today's video is the shade Dragon Fruit Days. It's very, very vibrant, and it's definitely the most pink blush I have. It's a fun one to reach for once in a while. But then again, it's not like my absolute favorite, but I do rotate through them quite a bit. So I believe they belong in I Like It, and it's in the rotation. So up next we have the About Face cheek balms. So I fell head over heels in love with these, but then it kind of came and went. I don't know what it is about these. They didn't really age well. The only one that I still have in my collection is the shade Get Some, and I do really enjoy this color, and this one's consistency is still the same as it was when I first got them. This is a really fun blush formula. It's kind of similar to the Rare Beauty melting blushes in the way that they feel kind of matte, but once you start swatching them, they melt and become really balmy. And they do have a nice setting time on your cheeks as well. It will kind of rest and set in place, and it will kind of dry down to that kind of powdery feel. So these do have good longevity. I found with the other shades though that they did the same kind of thing as the e.l.f. putty blushes, that they would kind of like patch up weirdly if you weren't super quick with your application. So I feel like this is going to belong right next to the e.l.f. putty blushes, because I would say there are some few things in the formula that I don't really love, so it doesn't belong here. It belongs there. Yeah, that makes sense. So now let's go through all of the blushes from M Cosmetics. Their most recent ones here feel kind of like the MAC Glow Play blushes, so they have like a squishy texture. I believe they only came out with 2 shades, and I feel like the colors are atrocious. They were like either gray or peanut butter on me. I found them to be very unflattering against my skin tone, and I didn't like this one's texture quite as much as other squishy blushes. I found that these ones were almost like blending out like a silky peanut butter, which wasn't great. I don't know. I don't even think it made it into one of my YouTube videos. I just decided to let these ones go once I tried them. I didn't like them at all. I feel like they have much stronger formulas, so I would steer clear of that one for sure. Now let's talk about their first blush, which was the serum blushes. I still have these in my collection after all of these years. I think they're really unique, and they really nailed this formula because they have a super serum-like texture, but with really awesome pigmentation. So they don't look streaky on your cheeks. They're quite easy to blend out, and they have good longevity for this type of product. Look at that glow. It's stunning, and the shades are really beautiful. My favorites are Soft Amethyst or Venetian Rose. Venetian Rose, I believe they have in most of their formulas, and it's my favorite across all of the formulas. It's a really beautiful color. So the serum blushes, I would say, aren't like one of my most loved for sure, but I would put them here. Good formula, but it's not a favorite. Yeah, that feels at home for me there. But talking about their Heaven's Glow blushes, these are their powder blushes, and they are truly heavenly. They're really nice baked formula. Their shades are so stunning, and they feel so wispy, and they have this glorious, beautiful, soft pearl in there that enhances the light. You can just see in the swatch right here, it just adds like a really pretty soft filter to your cheeks. I think this is their strongest blush formula in my opinion. The shades that they come out with are stunning, and I love just every single thing about them. I think they're one of my top powder blush formulas for sure. So this is in my most loved, and I do not want to live without these, that's for sure. And now touching on their So Soft blushes. These are named perfectly again. They're so soft. They have such a cloudy, like souffle texture, but they blend out really nice. They have gorgeous shades once again, and they have a nice matte finish. Sometimes with blushes like this, they can have like a super glossy dewy formula, but this one has kind of like a soft matte effect on the cheeks. It looks really glowy right now in the swatch. I don't know why, but usually they have like a nice, like kind of bouncy, really youthful look to the cheeks. I really like these ones still, but I wouldn't classify them as like a most loved, but it's definitely in the rotation for me. We have another stick blush. This is the Persona Multi-Stick, and I kept one shade. This is the shade Bubblegum, and I think I kept this one more for its shade. The formula is really good, but I feel like there are other cheek blushes that I just prefer a little bit more. This is one of the ones that looks quite dewy on the cheeks, as you can see here in this swatch, but the color itself is really nice because sometimes with like cool toned pink cream blushes, they can look really ashy or they appear a little bit more warm than you want to when it comes to cool pinks, but this one is true to color once it's on your skin. And I also like to layer with this one. I'll add this as a base, and then I'll add maybe like a cool toned pink shade on top just to amplify and make it look more vibrant. This is a really good formula, but it's definitely not a favorite of mine. I kept it just for its color. And they also have Bubble in a powder form. The powder blush though didn't really strike me. I got rid of it recently. It was a decent formula, like it was fine, but I felt like there are better powder blushes out there. It didn't really stick out to me that much. I do prefer the cream stick over that one, so I'm going to place the powder version of the Persona blushes in Fine, but there are better out there. Up next we have the Care Weiss blushes. I love these ones, especially in the summertime. I don't know why, but I always reach for them in the summer. They have stunning tones and they wear really well. They have a moussey texture, but they also have a really nice pearl. Now swatching and touching this, I would describe this as the cream version of the M Cosmetics Heaven's Glow blushes. I don't know why, but it just has that really nice airy feel and that beautiful kind of soft pearl that makes them look dewy without it being too sticky or heavy. They're really nice and they have a really pretty moussey, like fluffy texture, which is fun to touch. I like them, but it's definitely not a super favorite, but it's in the rotation. No, I think good formula, but it's not a favorite because I only rotate through them in the summer. I don't know what it is. Up next we have a K-Beauty blush. This is the Juicy Pang Jelly Blushers. I have this beautiful shade in... I'm not sure. But this is a nice bouncy blush formula. So when I say bouncy, you can like press your finger in there and it will indent. This is the exact same formula as the MAC Glow Play blushes. So if you're a fan of these, you're gonna like these. You just get a smaller amount. This one's good, but I think because it's so close to the Glow Play blushes, I think of these first over this one. So this blush doesn't really stick out to me in my mind. So I would say it's a good formula, but it's not a favorite. I am so fond of the Clinique Cheek Pop blushes. This shade right here is the shade Cola Pop. I'll link all of the shades I demoed for you guys just so you can see up there, just in case if I miss any. But this is such an interesting blush formula. I worked with them a few months back and they actually told me that these start off as liquid and then they get pressed or something. So they feel really like hardly pressed in the pan. If you've touched them before, you know what I'm saying, but they apply so softly on your cheeks and they have this gorgeous, gorgeous glow and they're so easy to diffuse and control. They give like one of the prettiest effects on the cheeks. I would say that these are kind of like a more intense version of the Heaven's Glow from M Cosmetics, but they're so unique in itself, and especially for a powder blush, these definitely belonged in my most loved category. I just look at them so fondly with eyes of love. I just adore them. And then up next we have a bunch from MAC. I'll just quickly talk about the Glow Play blushes. I mean, I already tried to talk about them like what, 4 times in today's video. I feel like this is such an interesting formula. It came out a few years ago, but it still feels recent to me. I don't know, it's such a magical texture. It has such a soft, bouncy feel, but they feel powdery yet creamy at the same time. Again, it has a really nice soft effect. It looks really plush on your cheeks. It has like a really nice blurring filter to them, and they also have a little bit of a pearl, so it does like add some glow. It just adds a really interesting dimensional look to your blush look. I adore them, and it's another blush that I just look at with such love. For sure my most loved, and I do not want to live without them. Touching on the next one, this is the Extra Dimension blush from MAC. This is very, very satin, almost like a really metallic blush, but for some reason it works. The satin sheen in here is fine enough that it doesn't over exaggerate the texture on your cheeks. Of course, any kind of formula like this is going to do a little exaggerating here or there, but I think because the pearl is so smooth and consistent, it doesn't like ultra exaggerate and put a microscope on your pores. But for some reason it works. This color is so fun. It's the shade Rosy Cheeks. it's very unique to my collection because usually I don't like this type of texture, especially for cheek products, but for some reason it just works for this one. So this is going to be going in, it's good, but it's not a favorite. I wouldn't say it's a favorite, but it works and it's nice and it's a good formula. I only have that one shade, so it's not really rotated through, but if I had the kind of like a calmer color, potentially. But now let's talk about their classic powder blushes. I have one somewhere here. So my favorite shade in those is the shade Burnt Pepper. It's the one I'm trying to open up right now. It has like a really nice kind of burnt, kind of red, rosy kind of a color. My hand is still wet, so I'm going to swatch it on my palm here. These are nice. They're fine. I feel like this is just more of like an iconic product to me. I think it's one of the first blushes I purchased once I got like some bottle money or something. I think I'll always have some in my collection, but I wouldn't really go ahead and like really recommend them these days. I feel like there are definitely better and more updated formulas, but they do have really awesome shades, which is quite important. So I really like these, but I think these are more so of a sentimental blush to me than something I would like recommend to you guys today. So I don't know where to categorize this. Where do I put this? I guess I like it and it's in the rotation. Ooh, so this next one here is the Charlotte Tilbury, I forget the name, but the blush pops maybe? I don't know, but it's the powder blushes with the little glow booster thing in the middle. So I had these in my collection like around 2016, I believe, and I was not fond of them then. I only liked matte powder blushes back then, besides like the Glossier Cloud paint. Otherwise, like cream blushes weren't in. It was just like matte powder blushes, and I didn't like the glowy effect that this would add. And I feel like I didn't really perfect my application method with these, but this is a blush formula I think I would enjoy today. And I think this is the first one that's going to be going in the section I would like to try again. So next we have the Tarte powder blushes. This was kind of a special blush to me. I remember I won like a giveaway back before I really got into makeup, before I was doing this career. And I won like there are huge palettes of them that came with like 6 or something in them, and I used that thing to death. I even used it on clients for a while. I think this blush formula is just more sentimental, but I don't have any more in my collection. Like, I think they were just okay. So for me, I'm going to place it in fine, but there's better out there, but I do have fond memories of them. Now we have another Charlotte Tilbury product. This is the Tinted Love blushes. I think you could also use these on your lips. They're like a cheek and lip stain, but they were powerful in the way that you would just like put a little bit on your cheek and it would just stain right there. You wouldn't even have time to blend it out. Even if you were going at the speed of light, they would just stain right there and leave a little ink mark. Same on the lips. They would just immediately stain and they wouldn't budge or give you time to blend them out. So this is a product I would say steer clear of. Up next, we have the Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out Freestyle Cream blushes. Now this line is super fun. They come out with fun colors all the time. I think that's what kept me really interested in these, because the formula to me just feels like any other cream blush to me. Like, I feel like I felt this type of formula 1,000 times before, but the colors draw me back in each time. I'm like a fish on a hook. This specific shade I swatched is Rosé Latte, and it's a really nice kind of burnt, summery, almost fall color. It is really nice. I would have to say it's good, but it's not a favorite. I just like the colors more so than their actual textures. Next in line are the Rare Beauty blushes. Let's talk about this icon right here. We know her, most of us love her, the Rare Beauty liquid blushes. So this is the most intensely pigmented blushes out there for sure, but their texture is so nice and it feels like it shouldn't carry this much pigment. But I love that about them because that means it stretches across many skin tones, and it also ensures that it's going to stay there and last all day. But the texture is really nice. You can see here it has kind of like a serumy gel-like kind of hybrid texture, but they feel really lightweight on the cheeks too, and they do set down and dry down, so I don't get any hair stuck to my cheeks ever, and they're here to stay. I still get so excited to use these, especially if they like work with my look that day. I look at these so fondly. These for sure sit in my most loved and I do not want to live without section. Let's talk about Rare Beauty's other blush formula, which is the melting blushes. So I touched on this a little bit during like the About Face ones, but this is a similar formula. Once it adjusts to the heat of your fingertip, it melts and it feels a little bit balmy, but once you apply it to your cheeks, it gets kind of powdery again. And you're able to get kind of a sheerer effect with these in comparison to the liquid blushes, which is nice. But for some reason, this product has slowly been losing its sparkle to me. I just always reach for the liquid versions instead of this one. I would say that it's a good formula, but it's not my favorite. Now let's talk about the Charlotte Tilbury light wands, or the blush wands. So this one is the matte version. She came out with these before the summertime. I thought I was going to like these a lot more than I ended up liking them, but I still think they're cute. They give like a very softened look on your cheeks. They almost have like a soft matte texture, which is very nice. I just don't think they match up to the magic that is the Beauty Light Wand to me, because the beauty in the Beauty Light Wand is that it is a shimmery, super shimmery blush, but it is so softening on the cheek and it gives a truly unique look. Like whenever I apply this, I'm like, why don't I use this every single day? Because it gives my cheek the most beautiful look, and it's awesome for like light makeup days or like full glam makeup days. I think it suits a variety of looks and it's always pretty. It's always so pretty. So I would say that the matte versions is good, but it's not a favorite. Yeah, that belongs there. Looks like that is the popular category. And the Beauty Light Wand, specifically in the shade Pinkgasm, is the most loved for sure. I recently spoke about this next formula in my worst makeup of 2023, so I feel like you may know where this is headed. It's the Afterglow Cheek Serum Blushes. So this is very similar to the M Cosmetics Serum Blushes, just a lot less pigmented and patchy, and it will disrupt your makeup underneath or on top or whatnot. So this is for sure a steer clear of. And then we have the powder blush from NARS. And I like some of these. I have a similar feeling towards the powder NARS blushes as I do with the MAC powder blushes. Like I feel like they're icons. They have really, really nice shades, but the formula is like meh. You know, like I've seen it before, which I guess is like fine, obviously, like it works fine, but there's better out there for me. And if we're talking specifically about NARS Orgasm, I don't like that shade. I think the chunky glitter is very off-putting to me, but I like the shades that just are flat, that have no sheen, no shimmer, no glitter. Those ones are cute. Talking about this formula here, this is the Something Souffle blushes. I had a huge phase with these. I thought they were super awesome, but they kind of got weird over time in my collection. I feel like their texture changed quite quickly. I think like the air kind of left the bottle as time went on, so they felt more flat and they felt harder to blend, but the texture is really cool when you touch it. It's super mousse-like. It almost feels like chocolate mousse for sure, and it gives a super matte, flawless, blurred out look on the cheek. I loved its effect, but it didn't last well in my collection, so I'm going to put this one in fine, but there's better out there. Yeah. And this last one from NARS here is their liquid blushes, and I had them before, but I never reached for them, but for some reason I feel like I would like them a lot more today than I did back then. So this is another formula I would like to retry. Next in line is the Laura Mercier Blush Color Infusion. I think this is a sneaky favorite of mine because whenever I apply this, I feel like it looks like it took me at least 6 steps to get to where I'm at with this. It looks like I applied my blush perfectly, my powders beautifully, and on top of all that, a stunning highlighter. And it's like an all-in-one step. It's such a stunning effect. I think I do have a limited edition color, and for that I'm so sorry. It's the shade All That Sparkles, but it has such a nice texture to it, and it doesn't look like much in the pan at all. It's one of those blushes that almost adjusts to your skin or your other makeup products, and it just unveils the magic. Yeah, because like this doesn't even swatch close. Hopefully in the B-roll you'll understand and see what I'm talking about, but this is for sure in my rotation. I feel like it's a rediscovery and a sneaky favorite of mine, so it belongs there. Up next is the Tower 28 Beach Please Cream Blushes. Now they continue to bring out shades of these all the time, at least a few of them a year, and they're so nice. I love this texture. It has a super balmy, slippy, nice texture, but with a lot of pigmentation. This is one of their newest colors. It's the shade Dream Hour, and it's a really nice cool pink, but it's quite pigmented, and it has a lot of glow to it, but it stays put really well. And this is one of those blush formulas that just stays there all day. It has good grip because of its kind of more tacky, more sticky, balmy texture, I guess. It doesn't have like a serumy, slippy, balmy texture, if that makes any sense. It's here to stay, and there are so many other beautiful colors like Power Hour and Dream Hour. I'm taking an extra second here to swatch my favorites, okay? I can't help myself. This is the shade After Hours, stunning deep berry, and this one I think is my most favorite and most unique for sure. It's the shade Power Hour. It's like a mahogany kind of brown color, super nice. But that formula is for sure one of my most loved. The next product here is the Melt cream blushes, and I got rid of all of mine when I was like in a decluttering mode and I was like getting rid of way too much, and I regret getting rid of these so bad because I liked them. There's one specific shade called Lynx, I believe, and it was like a really interesting kind of almost yellow based brown blush, but it had a lot of shimmer, but it looked amazing on the cheeks, especially in the summer. Holy cow. I'm not even taking a moment to breathe, but I have so much regret. So this is going in my would like to try again section. Then we have Makeup by Mario. He has 3 different formulas for blushes. The stick version, I've tried time and time again, and I just don't like it for some reason. I feel like it's really stiff and it doesn't blend out well. And just the texture on my cheeks just isn't the most flattering in comparison to other like cheek products or cream blushes in general. I just am not a fan. So for me, I would say it's fine, but there are better out there. It's not like a bad formulated product. It doesn't belong there, but there's better. There are better. And for the powder blushes, I just felt meh about them. I feel like they really have to strike me these days, especially for like a basic powder blush. I just didn't really find anything that wow about them in the shade, in the formula, in the textures, like just everything. I wasn't very fond of these. So again, that formula belongs in fine, but there are better out there. But talking about the cheek pops, way different story with those. I'm obsessed with these. I have the shade Pinch Me Pink right here. But this is the exact same formula as the Skin Enhancer. So if you love that, you're going to love these. But if you don't love that, then you're not going to like these. This has a really nice sheer texture and effect, but it's still vibrant enough to show up. And it has a really nice, beautiful, like glowy look, as you can see here in the swatch. But it doesn't feel like that on the cheek. It does feel like it sets down. I love wearing these, especially on the days where I want more of a light makeup look, because it just suits that aesthetic perfectly. And there's not like a harsh edge. It blends out beautifully, very flawlessly. There's no streakiness whatsoever. They're just easy to work with, stunning colors, stunning formula. All in all, I'm obsessed, truly, and it's going to be in my most loved. Up next is the Pat McGrath powder blush. I didn't like this one. I felt like it was far too hydrated for a powder blush, because whenever I would just apply it to my cheek, it would just kind of stay there, kind of similar to the Charlotte Tilbury stain. It would just stay there and it wouldn't leave. I also feel like I couldn't get a nice application with this because it has such an intense indentation in the product. Like the pattern they decided to press into the blush stands up way too much, so then you can't get like an even amount on your brush. Same thing happens to when you try to apply it to your cheek. It stains your brush and you can't really work it in there for some reason. I just did not have a good experience with this blush whatsoever, and I tried it time and time again, and they couldn't work for me. So for me, these are going to go in the steer clear of, especially because it's a Pat McGrath product. You expect like it to be like the most majestic formula ever, and that it should work really well because it has this crazy price tag attached to it. Now we have the Milk Makeup Bionic Glow Blush. So I think this was a case where I didn't really like any of the colors they came out with, but my mom has me wanting to retry these because she wears one of them like every single day and it looks so stunning on her. So I wonder how it would go today. I feel like this came out at a time where there was a lot of like serumy blushes and it just didn't really compare to the other ones, but I'd be curious to see what I feel towards these today. Maybe I'll have to try out my mom's, but yeah, it's going to go in the would like to try again. But talking about the stick version of their blush, I like these. I like just having them in my makeup bag. They're really easy to carry around because they're super small these days. But they do have some fun colors, and I do like how they're multi-purpose. Like you can wear them on your lips if you'd like, so it ups the versatility for a makeup bag for me. In comparison to the other cream blushes that I love, it doesn't really shine a light on those, so I would say it's a good formula, but it's not a favorite. Up next we have the cream blush from Laura Mercier. I hated these like with a passion. I tried to like them so hard because they have really beautiful colors, but they're the most streaky, most patchy blushes ever, and they dry down kind of like a liquid lipstick would, and it just feels dry and annoying on my cheeks, so this was a steer clear of for sure. Then we have the Glowish by Huda Beauty powder blushes, and these are cute because they're marbled, they look cute, but for some reason, again, I didn't really connect with any of the colors. I think that's why I always just decluttered of them, but the formula itself is really nice. It has kind of like a soft, kind of moisturized texture, really silky, but it has a little bit of a pearl. So it is really pretty on the cheeks. I just didn't like the colors. So this is a good formula, but it's not a favorite. But speaking about the stick blushes from Huda Beauty. These are awesome and the colors are stunning, and I just love pretty much every single thing about this because it looks ultra dewy, but that's because there's a really nice pearl in here that just makes it look far more dramatic in its glow. And the colors are so nice. This specific shade is Batty Berry, but the shade Rebel Red is where my heart lies. That's my favorite color. And these can be sheared out or built up and they never look streaky or weird on the cheek. So this is one of my most loved blushes for sure. And then this is a recent one from Huda Beauty. It's cool. It's a cheek gloss, which I do not like gloss cheek products. I just don't like how they feel on my cheeks, but this one's really unique. It doesn't look like anything in the pan, but once you apply it to your cheeks, it is like a pH changing sort of thing. And this one for like a cheek gloss, I've tried many in this career, and this one is pretty good. I just don't like this look, so it's not a product for me. It does change really well and it shows up nicely. I just don't like the effect personally, so I think it's a good formula for this type of thing, but it's not my favorite. You can see it's starting to change here. It gets like the classic cool pH pink. Next in line is the LYS Cream Cheek Blushes. I didn't really like these, so I'm going to put this in fine, but there are better out there. I don't know, they didn't strike much to me. Then we have the Ilia blush sticks. I used to like them, but I feel like there were different innovations that came out after this, and these ended up feeling quite sticky and tuggy on my cheeks. For me, this is another fine, but there are better out there. But talking about Saie, say less, because these are magical to me. I recently filmed a short swatching all of them that are available on my cheeks. They're so beautiful. Chili is still my favorite color, but after swatching them all on my cheeks, Spicy is kind of becoming a runner-up. It's a really interesting kind of terracotta brown color, and it looks really good on. There's a few other shades that are really catching my eye lately, so you can check that out if you want to see the whole range against my skin tone. This formula for me is a most loved. I just love how long wearing they are for this type of glowy serumy texture, and the colors are just so unique and beautiful. Just love them to bits. I just don't know what else to say. They're so good. Ooh, Rose Ink is here, and we all know how I feel about the Rose Ink blushes. I would still classify this as one of my top most loved cream blushes out there, and it's also multi-purpose because you can apply them on your lips too. But this is a really interesting, unique texture as well because it has like that moussey whipped texture. So if you like go like this in the pan, you can get the peaks as if it was like whipped cream. So as you can imagine, it has such a nice feel when you're blending them out, and they're super easy to blend out. You can use anything, a brush, a sponge, your fingertip. It's so not fussy. It just always looks fantastic. Yes, it's going up into my most loved. Then we have Simi Haze. This is a dual blush situation here, which is nice. One side is like a soft matte cream and the other is like a super dewy cream. I have my grievances with the brand for sure. This product is okay. It's definitely one of the ones I would recommend if I had to recommend anything from the brand, but with that being said, I did end up decluttering of it. It doesn't shine a light on anything above this category here. I think I'm gonna put it in fine, but there are better out there. Yeah, like there are much better products that I would recommend tenfold over that one. If you are a no makeup girly, the Merit blushes are awesome. These are my favorite. If I'm not wearing a stitch of makeup and I just want a little bit of life in my skin back, I'll always apply one of the shades I have. My current favorite is the shade Fox. It's a really nice, almost like more vibrant terracotta, but they just add like a little touch of color, gorgeous finish, so it adds a little life into your cheeks again. I think these are really pretty. I use these all the time. I would say that they're in the rotation. Up next, again, I talked about this recently in my least favorite makeup of 2023. It's the Iconic London, I think like bronze cheek blush something. I think they're meant to be like bronzier blushes for the summertime. They were just straight up the most metallic eyeshadow in a blush pan. I would say that these you could steer clear of. They're also very fragile. Like if you bump them or look at them wrong, they shatter. Then we have the Iconic Glossier Cloud Paints. So this was my introduction to cream blushes and they're still in my collection. I only have this one shade though. I decluttered of the other colors because I've had them since 2015. I just felt like I needed to say bye-bye for a moment, but these still apply really well. They have such a nice flattering consistency. They dry down on your cheeks so they have good long longevity. Their texture is really nice. It does have like a cloudy feel, so they just blend out wonderfully. I always apply way too much of this red. I always forget how pigmented this red one is. She's cute because it looks like a natural flush and it has like a nice sheerness to it, but you can also build them up. So whatever vibe you're in, this could suit it. So I'm going to place it in I Like It, and it's in the rotation. Then we have the Danessa Myricks. Oh my gosh, I forget what it's actually called, but it's the formula that has Upslight in it, and it's like the primer or the foundation. I'm having a brain fart right now. This is a product I would like to try again. I remember not connecting with any of the colors. They are far too like orangey for me or way too vibrant, which I think would suit deeper skin tones way better than for me, which is awesome to see, but I just didn't like the colors I tried. But the formula, I remember it being quite nice. So I would like to try it again, honestly. I feel like I was a little bit pushy to get rid of these at the time. Then we have the Gucci Beauty blushes, and I adore these so much. I think this is such a beautiful blush formula. It's just a powder blush, but it does have a little magic in there. This is the shade Warm Berry. It has such a nice powder feel. It has good longevity because there's a little bit of moisture in there, but overall it applies so nicely. You don't have to think about it. It just applies perfectly and it's stunning. The packaging's beautiful. I just continue to collect these ones. They do have a little bit of dimension in them, so meaning that there's a fine little pearl. So you can see it just adds a little bit of a glow, but it's nothing major and nothing like an intentional pearl or sheen. It's just beautiful. So this is for sure one of my most loved blushes. I'm like touched, I'm like holding my chest. And then we have the Armani Beauty. I had a very similar experience with this blush as I did the Pat McGrath powder blush, so I'm going to place them there too. I really did not get along well with this blush. Again, it just kind of stayed where my brush would touch down and it just would not budge. I didn't like them. Speaking about the Dior blushes, hold on a second, because this is for sure, I'm just gonna place it right here, most loved for sure. I think this is such a unique texture. They feel very sheer and like barely there, but they add so much when you actually apply them to your cheeks. It just completely transforms the look. You can use these as blush toppers or just on their own, and they're really transformative and they're very blurring. They have such a nice diffusing quality to them that makes your skin look super smooth. I adore these and I look up to them so much, which is weird to say about a blush, but I do. I love them. Ooh, and the Givenchy powder blushes are so cool and unique to my collection. I don't have anything else like this, and they're so fun to pull out. I love the way they're packaged, and I love just the application method. I just take whatever's left on the cap up here. I don't dip my brush directly in here. Holy, I've been talking for so long, I'm losing my voice. These apply really nice, just like a translucent powder would, and like the Dior blushes, or like you can imagine, these also have a really nice blurring quality to them, but they also give a lot of dimension. They do have a little bit of a luminous pearl, and I just like their effects. My favorite shade is the shade 5, but the shade I swatched for today's video was the shade 4. And they also have a really nice cool pink. I think these are really cool. I don't know if it's a top favorite, but I love these and they're in my rotation. I don't think they've met most loved yet, or have they? I don't know, because they're so interesting and unique. In the rotation for now, but I feel like it's crawling up to most loved for sure. Patrita. Do I even have to spend any time talking about these? I should do a swatching reels or short swatching all the shades I have. I love this formula so much. You get a powder side and a cream side, and they collaborate so well together. They're formulated to pair with each other, but I like to wear either side alone, or sometimes I experiment with the layering of it all. This is the shade She's Wanted, and it's a glorious wine shade. I also like to use this on my lips, and it looks like I have been drinking wine. It's a vibe. But this is one of my forever favorite blushes, and I compare almost everything to it. It's such a nice formula. Then we have some Quo Beauty products here. This first one here is the Cheek Muds. They were trying to kind of do something with the packaging, but the product inside here is absolute garbage. It's one of the worst blush formulas I've ever tried. It just stays put. You always get a patchy look. It's odd, just no. But the serum blushes here, where they were trying to kind of dupe the Cosmetics serum blushes, is pretty good actually. Like, it has really good pigmentation. I would say it's not as long wearing as the Cosmetics ones, but it's fine. But there are better out there for sure. I would recommend the Cosmetics over this one anyways, but it's a pretty good dupe. And this one here is trying to dupe the Glossier Cloud Paints, but the inside here actually is a lot more dewy than the Glossier. Glossier kind of dries down more of like a skin finish matte, soft matte, but this dries down dewy. I went through almost a full one of these, one of the shades. I don't have them in my collection anymore, but I remember it being quite nice. So today I would put it in, it's a good formula, but it's no longer a favorite of mine. Then we have the Chanel Les Beige Water Fresh Blush. This is another very unique blush. Just like the tinted moisturizer, it starts off looking like these little ground up coffee beans in a serum, and then you pop those pigment spheres and it unleashes this beautiful brown leaning blush. I have the shade Deep Bronze, and it's beautiful in the summertime. It pairs very well with a tan. So cute. And it wears really well and it applies really nicely, and I like the activity of popping the little bubbles. It's fun for me. So I love this, and it's definitely in the rotation, but it's not up here for sure. These are newer blushes to me. These are the Flower Nose blushes. I've also tried the other shades from different collections as well, and they're nice. They give a very similar effect to the Kaleidos Mono blushes. They're very sheer veils of color. I've so far used them as blush toppers. I don't really feel as strucken by these as the other products I've tried from Flower Nose. I think there's other things I would recommend over these, but that might be just the blushes from this line. They may just be formulated to be more sheer. I just received these ones and they look a little bit more pigmented. This is from the Strawberry collection. That looks a lot more vibrant than any of the ones in the Swan Ballet collection. And these mermaid ones, look at these. Look how cool these are. They're like little ombre numbers. I haven't tried these ones yet. Look at this one. It has blue blush. So we'll have to see if my opinions change once I try the shades from the different collections, but as far as the Swan Ballet ones go, I would say it's a good formula, but it's not a favorite. Ooh, up next is my current obsession. This is what I'm wearing on my cheeks today. It's this very beautiful cool pink blush duo from Surratt. So one of the shades is Barbe Papat. That's the one that has the shimmer in it. I forget what this color is, but I'll have it linked in the description box. This gives me vibes of Sabrina Carpenter's cheek makeup. Like, it just gives the most beautiful glow, and these have such a nice texture. If you have tried their bronzer, it's a very similar texture where it feels very moisturized but very silky at the same time. This is such a unique blush texture to me. I just can't get enough of it either. It blends out beautifully on the cheeks. You barely have to do anything and it looks flawless. I'm super excited to have this for sure in the rotation, and it might end up here in a few months. Then we have the Essence Pure Nude Baked Blush. I love this. I can't get my hands on any other colors right now. They're always sold out in stores and online too at Shoppers, but I love this blush. It's very reminiscent of the Cosmetics Heaven's Glow Baked blushes. I've said blush way too much today. Very similar. Also has that similar glow to it, similar texture, just all in all stunning. And I would say that this is one of my most loved. And then over here we have the Lily by Red Cream Blush. I found these to be really chalky against my skin tone. I think you'd have to be like white as snow for these to look okay. I just didn't like its milky look. It looked very chalky on my skin. I just couldn't get along with these. So for me and for most people, I feel like they wouldn't work. So steer clear of those. And then we have our final two here. This is a little blush palette from Dasic. I have a few of them, but the one I've been mostly using is the shade Violet Knit, just because it's really cute, like yogurty tones. I actually like using this purple blush as a primer for the pink. It just makes the pink look a lot more vibrant and obvious, I guess, because these can be quite soft on the cheek, but they're still evident, like they're still there. I really like the texture, and I like the option of a blush palette. I feel like it ups the versatility, and these are nice and small, so they'd be able to fit in a makeup bag easily. I really like these in the rotation. And this last one here is the Makeup Forever Artist Blush in the shade Wherever Rose. And Wherever Rose is such a nice color. This has been the blush I've been reaching for all the time on the daily. It has such a nice color. Where do I swatch this? I feel like my hand looks hella stained now. Here, right here. This has a really awesome texture. I think these are in a way very similar to the Dior powder blushes, but just a little bit more pigmented in tone. I love these so far. I don't really like the highlighters that came out in this line alongside of these, but this blush is just to die for, honestly. I can't stop swatching it. It's so nice. And it feels like an updated version of a powder blush, if that makes any sense. Like, it feels special. So for that, it's definitely going in my most loved already. Like, I can't get enough. And here's all my final rankings. It's really cool to see it all visualized like this. For some reason, it's very satisfying to me, and I'm going to be looking at this for a little while. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know what category you'd like to see next. I'll have my favorite blushes linked in the description box down below, so feel free to check that out, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!